One day, game designer Junichi Masuda sits down in the courtyard of the Museum of Modern Art, which is located in New York City. He sees a beehive and is fascinated by its hexagonal shape. That beehive was responsible for the linear and hexagonal shape of Pokémon Black and White's map, and New York City was used as a basis to create the famous Unova region. If you're one of the people who hated the linear story, now you know who to blame. The previous Pokemon games take place in 4 different regions, all adaptations of Japanese regions. As Masuda doubled as a composer, he had done concerts in each of those regions, but this time he wanted to do something this big. So when considering where else he would like to perform a concert, he thought of New York City, famous for its musicals, operas, and theaters. New York City's diversity also fascinated him, how no matter from what race, culture, and background people were from, at a distance they all seem as if they were one. This is reflective of the Japanese name for the Unova region, Ishu, meaning one kind, which is derived from the Japanese words tashu, meaning many kinds, and ichi, meaning one. The many kinds of people and Pokemon seen up close look like only one kind of life from afar. Now, if you're living under a rock and don't know what Pokemon is, just know it's basically like to make cockfighting an RPG game. This time it takes place in the land of the free, also known as the greatest country, also known as... Now, obviously, if you take a look, there are definitely some unfaithful parts. The faithfulness of an adaptation in adaptation studies is known as fidelity. There's another term that will be useful to measure an adaptation's fidelity, which is medium specificity. In short, there will be changes made to an adaptation to accommodate or take advantage of a medium. In this case, the shift in medium is from a real-life place to a fictional and magical RPG video game. Now, there's a lot of changes I could pick out, and if I were to list them all, it would take longer than the depletion of a damn Gen 4 health bar, but I'll pick some of my favorites. The Battle Subway is a location where the player can battle an endless array of trainers on a train ride. And if you've ever been on the New York City subway, low-key, that's kind of accurate. The Adirondack Mountains from upstate New York were moved down to accommodate the rock types and diversity in the environment. The Brooklyn Bridge was used as inspiration for the Sky Row Bridge, and Castelia City is based off of the financial district. Now, for this little guy, I don't really know how much I'm allowed to say, but I don't think I need to explain this anyways. They turned the Bronx Zoo into the Pokemon League. Accurate. Inspired by New York City Broadway, they have a musical instead of the contest from the previous games. So generally, the game is pretty faithful to the city, the state, the shitty-ass weather. So for those of you that don't live up in the Northeast, it gets painfully cold, and the weather sometimes will just ignore the laws of meteorology. You'll have a day with rain, next day with snow, next day with 80-degree sunny weather, and that's all back to back. And I think it's kind of funny because they added a seasons mechanic unique to this game that changes every month rather than every 3. I feel like it perfectly encapsulates the marvel of the unpredictability and the highly contrasting aesthetics of the northeastern weather. As for the creatures themselves, they have a deer that also changes by season, more deer, some other reasonable choices, and some questionable ones as well. It's worth noting the Pokemon designers went to New York City Zoo and Aquarium for design ideas, so that's probably why they might have added like Zebra Strika, for example. Obviously, the goal is to make interesting designs, so it makes sense that they spice up the original animals and add like dragons and stuff. Despite the common belief within general audiences, the goal of an adaptation isn't to recreate the same thing. As Thomas Leitch says, the field is still haunted by the notion that adaptations ought to be faithful to their ostensible source texts. The enjoyment of a new Pokemon game is to see what's new and see how that contrasts to previous games. The excitement of adaptations comes from repetition and variation, so it's rather a good thing that everything isn't the same. Lastly, I wanted to mention the 2 big dragons advertised with the game. They are the representative of yin and yang, Zekrom being yin and Reshiram being yang. This is also why their colors are the color of the other's elemental power, as each yin and yang have a small portion of the other. Zekrom assists those who want to build an ideal world, while Reshiram helps those who want to build a world of truth. Because of their split of ideals, the two are always in conflict, and it reminds me of the political split in the United States. Not to say that one side is the truth while the other is just ideals, but more so that one is holding on to past beliefs while the other is looking for change. Thematically, Pokemon Black and White is actually about how there doesn't have to be extreme binary decisions, that it isn't always black and white. Alright, let's summarize my yacht by adaptation study terminology and aspects. The fidelity of the Unova region to New York City is solid, having many similar locations like Liberty Garden and Castelia City, but it also has some questionable additions. It makes more sense in a greater view when it is compared to the New York State or the USA though. It has a much more diverse cast and captures the liveliness and culture of the city, and the majority of decisions were based on original features. Medium specificity was used to inspire many gameplay decisions, including, arguably, the repurposing of the battle subway, the Pokemon musical, the design of Pokemon, the desert added for ground types, which is in addition integral to the battle system, and much more. As for adapters and audiences, Junichi Masuda wanted something bigger than the previous games. He thought about where he wanted to perform a new concert and was fascinated by New York City's diversity and musical culture. The United States is also one of the favorite countries among the Japanese around the time, likely due to its cultural capital, its great presence among many cultures, likely because of Hollywood films, music, and other arts. Contextually, the themes fit in with American politics or possibly the American dream. Intertextually, many changes were made from previous games to accommodate the new environment, including weather, the musical, and more. So how does Pokemon's adaptation of New York City form a fantastical view of it that suits the Pokemon experience? Well, rather than conforming into the reality of New York City, Pokemon plays into its natural fascination and tries to amplify it. Through a variety of mechanics like interactive music, Pokemon Black and White does not stray from New York City's famous musical image, and in various locations it also showcases the liveliness of urban life. There are even more representations of USA's artsy culture, with a model in both games and a film studio in the sequels. Pokemon are either captivating renditions of local life or fascinating mythical creatures, as the excitement of Pokemon are core to the game's experience. As much as Pokemon Black and White is an adaptation of New York City, it is first and foremost another sequel to the Pokemon franchise, one that boasts its feeling of journey, exploration, action, and excitement. Above all, players want the Pokemon experience, and Pokemon Black and White does a great job of utilizing New York City as inspiration, while prioritizing a unique Pokemon experience. That's also why Gen 5 is the greatest generation of games, and it's no coincidence the series started falling off after it took place in France. Sources in description.